Hello, Senior Stoner fans. It's the real Senior Stoner back at you for your Puffco Peak Pro dab of the day. Today is Tuesday. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, join the family, send a like our way, and I respond to all the comments. Let's get started with today's topic. We've got to stop blaming ourselves. That's right. We've got to. Most people blame themselves excessively. But we need to understand the ways that we can combat this way of thinking and work towards a more appropriate self-image for ourselves. It's not our fault. Everything is not our fault. It's not your fault. As we go and talk about these things and see how they apply to our lives, we need to apply these techniques based on what's suited for you, your personality, and your circumstances. There's no order, first, second, or third, and frankly, some of them are natural, but they're all powerful. So let's get started with ways that we can clear the negativity and stop blaming ourselves in our life. You need to talk to others. You may be surprised by just how much talking to other people can help us cope with worries and ensure that we stay realistic. Maybe seek out individuals who we trust, really trust. Ideally, they should be good listeners and aren't made uncomfortable by difficult conversations. When you invite other people to share your thoughts, you also get a chance to see your situation from a different perspective. Sometimes this shift can reduce the sense of responsibility you feel, giving you a sense of well-needed relief. Self-blame can also be alleviated by speaking to a therapist. Professionals are well placed to help people understand why we take on all the responsibility. Plus, therapists don't have a vested interest in the life choices we make. Contrast, friends and family may find it harder to bracket their own feelings about us. We got to reframe our thoughts as we figure out how to stop blaming ourselves for everything. We'll have an increasing awareness of just how important our inner critic is. It's vital to pay attention to the way we speak to ourselves and the types of thoughts we have. We need to watch out for the judgmental thoughts like should and ought, and instead of move to words maybe like could and might. Every time we find ourselves making harsh self-judgments, ask ourselves where that voice is really coming from. Often, it's the voice of the person you grew up with, a critical figure in your life, or a voice representing societal expectations. You've got to consciously try to flip the negative self-talk. You've got to learn and then move on. Our default, most people's, is probably to view yourself as a sign of failure and weakness, unfortunately. However, we can instead choose to view mistakes as opportunities for learning instead of failure and weakness. It's helpful to do it even in writing. Maybe write a sentence, write a paragraph. Challenge yourself to come up with 3 things you've gained. Learning how to stop blaming ourselves means developing a concrete way of moving on from mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes. Once we've documented how we're going to do it, draw the line and instead direct your thoughts towards progress, not criticism. Remind yourself that moving on is part of the best way you can make yourself a fulfilled person for your potential. Take responsibility in life, not blame. At the onset of this discussion, there's an important distinction I talked about between blame and responsibility. When you blame yourself, you feel guilty about what you've done. In that way, you may even feel a degree of self-loathing. But in contrast, taking responsibility is about evaluating the role you played, and if necessary, making amends. If you overlook something at work, blaming yourself involves thinking you're bad at your job, feeling low and ashamed. Meanwhile, taking responsibility is just seeing the error you made, admitting it to your team, and correcting it. While it's great to move away from self-blame, taking responsibility is required for mature, healthy relationships in all aspects of our life and for growth. People admire the bravery and honesty that taking responsibility requires. Therefore, it's also a good way to make yourself a role model even for others. And we talk about this plenty of times. Start loving ourselves. Showing ourselves self-love and self-care helps to prevent us from blaming ourselves excessively. Maybe examine how we spend our time. Ask ourselves whether we're devoting enough energy towards hobbies, passions, and your own well-being. Many people simply drift into a pattern of meeting the needs of others. However, you have to consciously carve out time for yourself if you're going to cultivate a genuine self-love. Maybe practice on the positive. Try it. Challenge yourself to think of 5 things to feel grateful for at the end of every day. I got them. You got them too. And when it comes to yourself, challenge yourself to think of at least one thing that you liked about yourself that day. Clear your mind. You see, self-blame and general negativity are easier to detect and easier to prevent if you get into the habit of practicing mindfulness. These strategies help to focus our mind on the present moment. They also help to empty it of extraneous detail that may be clouding our thoughts. We can add affirming statements to our day. You see, for us, changing isn't 180 degrees. It doesn't have to be. You don't go from blaming yourself for everything, it's sunny out, my fault, to, oh, I left the stove on and I burned the kitchen down. Wasn't my fault. Of course it was your fault. This is not a discussion about get out of jail free. This is not a discussion, nor is it meant to infer or imply that people can make mistakes and do bad things and not have consequences. That's not what this is about at all. This is about people like me who tend to blame ourselves for everything. I certainly hope you enjoyed this discussion. I hope you profit from today's discussion. I hope all of you out there listening can take from me what I just told and talked about and eliminate feeling bad. Hopefully this will help people to be happier and to not blame themselves incessantly for things going on in their world. Just because you're in the world, just because you're in the room, doesn't mean you did it. Stop blaming yourselves. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, send a like, and I definitely reply to all the comments. Learn to like ourselves. Stop blaming ourselves for everything. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Excuse me. Have a great day. And stop blaming ourselves. It's not our fault. Cheers.